This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we're going to look at some mail that has been submitted by viewers like you. This is something I've been doing on this channel for a long time. If you are new here, people send me mail, they send me zines and books, and in the spirit of creativity, I like to share these with you. And we got some awesome stuff today, so let's jump right in. All right, so first up is this beautiful little book that comes to us from Bill Mauzy. This is called Buckeye number 221. Bill also enclosed a note which reads, "Dear Ted, I hope this letter finds you well. I'm enclosing a book that I made as a result of documenting the building of a custom banjo that now lives in my home. I selected images and sequenced the book over the course of a book editing workshop offered by the photographer Tim Carpenter. For many years now, I have been thinking about studying and attempting to make photos about the relationships between the landscapes of the Blue Ridge Mountains and Central Appalachian Mountains and the musical cultures that surfaced in the region and still thrive in their most robust forms. Old-time string band music and bluegrass are the most recognizable such musical forms still practiced. I consider this small project a chapter of sorts in a much larger work that I'm chipping away at, kind of like one of Richard Mizrak's desert cantos. Hope you enjoyed the book and look forward to any feedback you might offer. Much appreciated, Bill." Bill also sent me this beautiful little postcard, which is pretty awesome. So full disclosure for everyone here, I actually know Bill. He and I took a masterclass workshop together last May. That's when we met. Bill's a great guy. He's a wonderful photographer, and I think this is a great example of the work that he does. Bill, this is fantastic. A couple things that I love the most about what Bill does is, first of all, his sense of composition is excellent. I love the way he frames things up. They're very clear in terms of the subject. They're very different. They're very unusual, and there's a really cool flow that goes on here. The other thing that I love that Bill does is that he works kind of in these series, and he kind of explained that in the letter that I just read, a bigger series that he's chipping away at, and he really is good at telling that story throughout, and I love the idea of getting a custom banjo made and documenting that process. And Bill, this is absolutely wonderful. I love it. The only criticism I have of anything on here, and Bill, you probably already noticed this, but it's the way that the black and white images are printed in this book tend to have a little bit of a green tint to them, and a lot of that is file prep and depends on the kind of press that you have. But as you work towards your larger work that you're doing, I would really love to see you use a straight black and white process. Bill shoots a lot in black and white. He's got some great photos. One of the things that I love that he did when we took that masterclass together is he has a whole series on swimming holes that are local in his region, and it's really cool. He's a great, thoughtful photographer, very talented. Bill, you did an awesome job on this. Much appreciate you sharing, man. Oh, and before I forget, people ask me all the time, when am I going to do another zine workshop? Well, we have one planned this year for October, so it's going to start on October 26, 2024. I will put a link in the description if you want more information on that, but these are class-type formats that we use. I do these online on Zoom, and so everybody will log in, and we meet once a week. And we meet, you have an assignment that you will do for that week, and then we meet again the next week, and you'll start to build on that. And the idea is that everybody's going to make a zine in this class, and we've done this a couple times now. It has been an enormous amount of fun. We break from the format a little bit on the third week, and I break you down into small groups so you can get some one-on-one time with me, and I'll actually give you a critique of what it is that you're working on. We'll talk about ideas, what's working, what maybe isn't working. And it's really been fun to see the work that people have produced in these. It's been excellent. I've shared some of that in these videos. I'll link below in the description if you want more information on that. But we do have zine class coming up in October, so I hope to see you there. Okay, next up is a very interesting project that comes to us from Kunzke. This is called Alone, There Is a Dream on the Horizon. I'm going to read you an excerpt from Dieter's bio in this book. It says, "My street photography candidly captures public life in unembellished scenes on the stage of public life, exploring the narratives and poetic elements woven into the fabric of the streets. The focus is on the visually powerful and expressive moments of urban life, scenes in which the light casts new shapes, colors, and figures. My visual language seeks a balance between richness and reduction." I'll also read you a quote from the back of this book, and this is from Wolfgang Zerborn, which reads, "Beyond a factual documentary description, urban spaces become stages for a theater of real life in his multi-layered visual worlds. Precisely captured moments, an unusual framing of what is seen, and a feel for expressive lighting situations make what we would normally overlook in everyday life appear special." I think both of those quotes accurately sum up what I'm seeing in your work, Dieter. I love your style, and I love what you're doing in here. Your sense of color is phenomenal. I love things like this, where you're coming up with a composition using the reflection, so it's a composition within a composition. There's some really, really nice stuff in here, and I really love the way that you work with light. There's always a dynamic contrast going on here between things that happen in bright areas and dark areas, and you're not afraid to use both of those. And you're doing it across all kinds of lighting, like really high contrast light, as well as even lighting, and then low light. And that's something that's really tough to do, is to kind of have that range and then have something that you're consistently saying across all those things. I love how you set things up. You're working in layers. This is really phenomenal. And if you guys are interested in getting a copy of this, I will put a link to Bill's book, this, and everybody else that's in this video in the show description. Please support your fellow colleagues. And Dieter, thanks for sending. This is really cool. All right, next up we have a few more pieces. We're going to travel from Andalucia all the way to Lake Pasadena. But first I want to give a shout out to our sponsor this week, who are the always awesome folks over at Squarespace. How easy is it to build an amazing website in a matter of minutes? Squarespace has you covered. It's dead simple. Head over to Squarespace, hit get started. You can start by selecting from an impressive collection of customizable templates, or you can do what I do, build your own. Something unique because, you're not like other websites. Give your site a name. Next, you can build your homepage. We'll start with a few preset layouts just to get us going. Want to sell products like books or prints? Well, you can feature those on your homepage. Create a few more sections if you want. Let's also give it a color palette. There's a whole bunch to choose from, and just get us started. We can change this all later. Next, let's select the typography choices. Welcome to your website. Everything is set up and it's all ready for you to customize. Squarespace is built on Fluid Engine, the next generation of website design. Select Edit, and Fluid Engine allows you to drag, place, and resize any element on the page. You can snap these to a grid, you can make them float on top of one another, you can freeform however you like. You can even preview and adjust how the site looks on either desktop or mobile. The layouts are independent. Of course, you'll want a portfolio for your work. Creating an image gallery is as easy as dropping a folder of images on your web browser. Once uploaded, you can drag to resort, customize the look, and Squarespace writes all of the code for you. Everything just works and it looks fabulous. Want to sell your own prints, books, or zines? Squarespace has the capabilities to not only set up your online store and collect payments, but they also give you all the tools that you're going to need to be successful. Managing shipping and payment options, manage your orders, and engage with your customers. They even give you the tax tools that you need to keep things organized and stay compliant. You should try Squarespace for yourself. It's absolutely free, no credit card required. Just go to squarespace.com/AOP, sign up for that free trial. If you decide Squarespace is right for you, I can save you an additional 10% on your order by using offer code AOP on checkout. That's right, the code is AOP. So stop procrastinating, go build your website today. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. All right, so next up is this beautiful little zine that comes to us from Motaz Mohamed. This is called Photos from Andalucia, People and Places. Motaz also includes a note which reads, "In addition to being one of the most beautiful places on earth, I felt a strong emotional connection to Andalucia. There's a rich history of stunning art, poetry, and literature in our Arab Muslim history that comes from here. I mostly managed to read the stunning Arabic calligraphy on the walls of Alhambra and other places, which was mainly religious text, Quran verses, and poetry. There's also the added painful layer of wars and more difficult history. I couldn't bring myself to visit the Torture Museum or the Placido de los Olvidados. Since 2020, I have been looking for excuses to return, and I am returning this year, in 2024. I'd appreciate any advice, critique, or feedback, and know your critiques are never too harsh. Many thanks and kind regards, Motaz." All right, my friend, a little critique and a little bit of advice here. First of all, one of the things that I love is that you've kind of been through this already once, that you're in love with the location, and this is something that really speaks to you, and you're going back. And I think there's something to be said for that. There's this whole idea and this concept that I've talked to several people about lately of the idea of revisiting a scene and going back, and there's really nothing wrong with that. In fact, sometimes you get to know it even better, and sometimes that makes the work even better as you go. And so it'll be really interesting to see how you improve doing that. And I would go with the aim of doing another zine, and I would go with the aim of maybe coming up with a little more direction. You mix this up. I think your strongest work in here is some of these architectural things. You do really well with geometry and shape. The street photographs I'm not as fond of, but I think you could probably refine that into what it is that you want to shoot, if it's a religious service or something like that, or just people. But I think your stronger work is the architectural work. But I would go with that in mind. I wouldn't try to cast the net too wide and do too many different things. And so I think that's one thing that'll really help you. The other thing that I want to see is actually, I would recommend looking at other zines, looking at other book publications, looking at other photo work, and seeing how the layout works and how it's printed. I've mentioned this a lot of times before, and one of my pet peeves here is don't make me shift the magazine to spin it around and look at something from a different angle. Everything needs to kind of be heads up. And the reason I say that is sometimes when, like this one, it's obvious, it's a street scene, I know which way to turn. But there are some that I was even filming the B-roll for this and I didn't have right side up, so this is one of them. But it's kind of abstract, and then when you go this way, you realize that's the way it's supposed to go. So don't do that, please. It's okay to let borders and white space on the page breathe. A lot of people, when you're starting out, want to fill the page with everything, and a lot of people go full bleed with everything, and you don't have to do it. It's better to let your photographs bleed. I know you want to maximize the area, but don't ever break the format of a zine to make people want to turn it a certain way. I think it's too much to ask of the reader, and I don't think it, well, it creates an interruption with the work, and I don't think it enhances or does much for it. So those are the two things that I would think about. And the way you get around that is just look at other work and see what other people have done with layouts. Go to the library, the bookstore, look at magazines even, but look at what is traditional with layout. And you don't need to break those norms unless there's an actual reason to do it. But I would love to see you kind of zone in on one specific thing and go for it. I think that your typography is good, your color work is good, and yeah, man, have fun. And you get to go back. That's the other cool thing. So there's something really to be said for that. So anyway, good work, and thank you for sharing. Next up is a zine which comes to us from Colin Ward. This is called In and Around the Lake. Photographs of Lake Pasadena and its creatures. Read your little Colin's note here. He says, "Hi Ted, I enjoy your channel and your book reviews. I'm enclosing a book that I just made called In and Around the Lake, a line from a song by Yes. Oh, I know it well. I've lived near a small lake in Florida, and I have taken photos there off and on for over 10 years. I decided it was interesting enough to make a book of the photos that I plan to give copies to my immediate neighbors for Christmas. I hope that you like looking at the book and the birds and the animals therein. Cheers, Colin." Colin, this is really nicely done, and I think that you're on the verge of doing something that's really unusual and a little bit different. I think some of these reflection photos, in fact, let me find one specifically. This is a fantastic composition. I love what's going on with color and light. I would love to see you going more in this direction and experiment more with this. And if you've been shooting this for 10 years, you might even have some images, and I would consider putting more of those in here. It's another example of what I'm talking about. These are gorgeous. The other thing, and the only criticism I would have in here, is when you get into some of these bird shots, there's a lot of symmetry. And what I mean by this is when you have two pages on a spread, or two images on a spread like this, is that there is a relationship between each one of these images. And I see a lot of these that end up being kind of mirror-like, or it's the same composition, and I know sometimes it's the same bird, but it's going to give you more interest if you're able to vary this up a little bit. And what I would do is go through, see what you've got, and if you tend to shoot that way a lot, I would consider even breaking that up a little bit, because I think it's going to give you just a little more lift and a little more life to the zine. So like something like this, which is, you know, I don't have these mirror spreads on here, so it gives me a little bit more interest as somebody who's looking at this. It challenges me a little more, it shows me new ideas, and then those relationships are so important. Anyway, I love the Yes quote here. I love that song. And anyway, this is really awesome. So thank you for sharing, and I think it's great to make this as a gift, and I hope your friends like it, man. All right, so I will put links to everyone in the show description below. Make sure you support your colleagues. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave those as well. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, later.